is Soulless Convoy, and today I'm taking a look at Iron Factory EX-43 Primal Commander, which is their take on a Legend Scale Optimal Optimus from the Beast Wars franchise. This is on loan to me from Fuse9. I don't have the box since he doesn't have the box, but it's the usual Iron Factory box as always. This guy came out a while ago, so this is a bit of a, I don't know what this guy, I think it came out in the early 2020s, I want to say, maybe 2021? I don't know for sure, though. Don't quote me on that. But I think it's nice to take a look at a bit of an older figure, but one that really, I think, still holds up today. So getting in close on the figure itself, starting off with the head. Let me see if I can get that to you. The head sculpt is pretty good. I do think it's a bit simple in its look, if that makes sense. The sculpt seems a bit simple for Iron Factory. Like the mouth is just like kind of there, and I don't know, it very much does the job, but it doesn't really wow me. The paint is on point. The silver paint is great. The blue metallic paint is great, which is kind of what I can say for the entirety of this figure. I mean, look at that red on the shoulders, right? Like the paint on this figure is just gorgeous, and he's lathered in it. This metallic blue is fantastic. The entire lower half here, silver details, green details, silver paint, red paint. I mean, this maroon red is like one of the most striking paints I've seen on a Legends class figure. These green details pop fantastic. The general like presentation of this figure is really impressive, even down to the rims for these wheels that barely have any real purpose are painted. I mean, he's pretty clean from the black, from the back. The black plastic and the yellow plastic, though, are unpainted, but I think it's a nice contrast against the gorgeous amount of silver, red, and blue paint on this guy, as well as the green and the silver highlights. He really presents well. Let me zoom out for a second, because there's really a lot of presentation value here. I think, he does have a lot of presence. I'll get into it more later, and there's reasons why he doesn't as well, but at least from a standing by himself, like he really does kind of convey that premium feel, because he's just lathered in paint and he just looks really good. And I think the proportions on this guy are really strong for this particular design. But getting into the articulation, the head can go up that far. It can go down this far. There's like a hinge inside, so you can move it forward and back, but if you move it forward, you get basically no up and basically no down. If you have it in the correct position, you can get some down and some up. You can also do 360 around, obviously. These shoulder cannons here are meant to be like this, but I always raise them so the head is a bit less obstructed, and I think it looks better like that. The shoulders are what things get weird. So in order for these shoulder pads to not collide with the sculpt, there's a really smart engineering mechanism going on where there's a ratchet right here, and there's another hinge inside here. The shoulder rotates right there on this hinge, right on this swivel right here. So the ratchet combining this ratchet with that allows you to get out. And then there's another hinge right here which lets you go all the way to 90. So there's a lot of articulation there. You can't get over 90, obviously. You have to really finagle it. It's not really possible. But I do think it's really commendable, this general design, because it's a really strong design. And when you go here, it may look ugly, but what it allows you to do is, for gorilla mode especially, you can fake a butterfly. So it is pretty awesome in terms of engineering design. Unfortunately, I will say these shoulder pads are also on a joint for transformation, and they're supposed to tab in back here, but that tab just does not really hold. So you end up having to like hold him from here to articulate the shoulder, which is a bit, I think, annoying. I don't know if it's a your mileage may vary issue. I haven't seen so many people talking about it, so it may just be this copy. But it is a bit annoying. It kind of reminds me of New Age Warpath, but the caveat here is that this is due to some truly fantastic articulation design and not just a design oversight. I do think this may be a tolerance issue on my copy in particular as well. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see. You also have a bicep swivel that gets you the full run. You also have a double jointed elbow that does indeed give you the full range, which is awesome. You have a ball jointed wrist, so you can get a full swivel. The wrist guards don't really get in the way at all. You also get a little bit of wiggle waggle, which is awesome for posing. The thumb is on a ball joint and hinges up. And then these fingers are basically mittens and they go like that. I'll get in more to the hands during the alternate part segment, but they just kind of, you know, they don't look the best, I will say. I kind of do wish they just stuck with the regular alternate hands they usually do. The wings are also fully articulated, so you can do whatever you want with those, which is awesome. They can go out, they can go like this, they can do that. So there's a whole bunch of, there's 2 hinges in the wings. The lower body, I'm going a bit slow here. You do have an ab crunch that gets you, oop, almost knocked over my camera. You do get an ab crunch that gets you about 45 degrees, which is awesome. You also have a unhindered waist swivel, which is awesome. These hip skirts are attached to the back, like some 3.0 figures, some high-end mecha figures do this, where they attach the hip skirts to the back on a ball joint. A lot of action figures do that. You can get these ball jointed hips, which are very nice and robust. They feel very tight. All the way up to 90. They're not squeaky and they don't feel like they're gonna shear or anything. They're just tight, which is good to support this guy's kind of dense. They don't really go back to 90, but they get you basically as much as you need back. And then they go out all the way unhindered, right? You also have a thigh swivel, which works great and is pretty unhindered. You have a double jointed knee, which does not get you the, I want to say it doesn't. Let me bring the leg forward and let's try and see how much we can get. No, it's pretty close to a full run, actually. I mean, it's not bad at all. Oops. I just mistransformed him slightly. So there is pretty solid articulation on the legs as well. And then finally, going down to the feet are super articulated. You have a ball joint here, which allows for some ankle rocker in both directions. It also allows for up and down. There's also a hinge. The ball joint is on a hinge to get you more. There's also a hinge right here, so you can hinge down there. And there's also a hinge for the toe. So there is a lot of articulation in the foot that you can mess around with to pose where you want, and the heel is also articulated. So there's a lot going on there, you know. You are not left wanting in terms of the feet. It makes them really easy to pose because you can always ground him super easily, and it's not really an issue. So the articulation is, I would say, pretty good, if not phenomenal. You know, he doesn't really have dedicated butterflies, but you can kind of fake them for some poses, which is awesome. He's a very, very fun figure to pose, even with the shoulder caveat, since like these very convenient grasping parts are right here, so you can just hold them like that. It does not the biggest issue. If there was no way for you to hold these in place, these blue pieces, if these yellow pieces weren't here, then it would be a massive issue. But since these yellow pieces are here, you can just grab them like that and pose them. It's not a big issue. That was one of the things that I wish that New Age Warpath had for his shoulders, at least. So moving on to accessories, he is kind of sparse in accessories, and for, you know, his price, I mean, I'll get into it later, but I was expecting a little bit more accessory wise. I know he doesn't need a lot of accessories for this design, but I was expecting more. So we're going to start off with just the gun, and this gun comes into mind for the transformation because some of the pieces that this gun is made of were actually used to like secure things during the transformation, kind of like gap fillers or like extra, you know, support, which is an interesting decision. I think it's a good way to, like, you know, reuse the accessory. It makes it very storable. He can hold it in his hands. I will say the one thing about this hold is that the port for the gun is formed where the hands connect. I will show you I have to show you the hands, honestly, but he can hold it pretty well. So it's not a huge issue. It does come out a bit pretty loosely, and then you can tuck the handle in, and it can store on his back on this 5mm port. The gun is pretty, I'll talk about it more in alternate mode and where it comes into play. For the hands though, the hands here, you don't get full hands. You get this just one pair of open fingers. And the way these work is that you basically pull off these, which come off really easily, by the way, a bit too easily, I would say. And then you put these back on, which are a bit tough to put on. They're a bit tight, which means they don't come off that easily, but I do wish the other hands were tolerance like this. You kind of have a gap sometimes because they don't really want to go in all the way. There we go. Still didn't get it. But, I mean, they do look good. I will say, I think these are a bit too, maybe big. I don't know. I really, it's hard to like compare the sizes because the detail isn't defined on this hand, but I don't know if these match proportionally. I think that maybe they might have they don't really match proportionally, I will say. These hands do look really cool, but I'm starting to wonder if maybe like, because he's supposed to have big hands, so maybe these should have been bigger. I don't know. It's just something to think about, I guess, but it's a really innovative solution to the whole like I want articulated hands and alternate hands thing, because these obviously look better posed, and those are just like for the people who don't like alternate hands, they can just use those. But I don't know if the execution was great because these also fall off too easily. They don't fall off, but you can pull them off really easily when you're not meaning to, and they should have been tight like this type of hand. I'm gonna like here. You know, like it just does not feel proportionate. I don't mean to the rest of his body, because ironically, like this character does have big hands. Optimus does have massive hands, so it makes sense for his design to have massive hands. But I don't know if this open hand and that, you know, the hand that exists, the mitten hand, are proportionate. I really don't know if they are. They don't look like they are to me, you know. But you know, let me know what you guys think in the comments. The open hands do look a lot better though, I will say. I am a sucker for alternate hands. I don't get the hate. I think for legend scale it's a perfect solution. But you know, people are always going to disagree. Transformers fans love articulating hands regardless if they're like a detriment to the figure's overall look and function. So, you know, I understand my opinion is in the minority and is mostly shared by action figure collectors who are used to having alternate hands. Let me get some size comparisons in. So first, let's do some size comparisons with Iron Factory figures. So here he is with Iron Factory's Sea Spray, and here he is with Iron Factory's Red Alert. So this is where the whole thing about the presence starts to come in, because all of a sudden, like, he's not as big as you thought he would be, right? I mean, people say that New Age runs a little bit bigger, but they don't run that much bigger. Magic Square runs bigger. That's New Age's Depth Charge. And this is New Age's Sludge. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to think that, and here's a New Age mini bot. Here's a trailer. All of a sudden, I'm starting to think that, you know, Optimus is historically a really big guy. Compared to Beast Wars guys, who I know are smaller than G1 characters, so you could argue this is like to scale with the G1 Legends cast, because he's supposed to be like, I think, regular Optimus sized, or a bit smaller. I'm not sure. I don't really know the exact scale, but I feel like he should be massive. I feel like he just feels like a character who should be huge, if that makes sense. And he doesn't feel huge the minute you put him with other Legends class toys, even from Iron Factory. You know, I think that this guy would be twice as tall as Red Alert. I don't think that's like at minimum, you know. I think he should be like, honestly, maybe New Age Jetfire sized, or at least like, I don't know, Iron Factory Magnus sized. He doesn't feel small, but he does feel small. He doesn't have like the, ironically, you know, I'm just gonna move all these guys out of the way. He feels more to scale with like Dr. Wu figures, honestly. You know, even if that's not the official scale of how big he should be. Let me get my Dr. Wu Optimus. But in my mind, I feel like this should be like a New Age Optimus in comparison to this guy. Or not a New Age Optimus, but like a New Age Carbot or Iron Factory Carbot should be comped to like his shin. That's how big I feel this should be. Am I right? Probably not, honestly. They probably had a better reason than I did. I just think he should be big because he feels big to me. Like this design feels like it means to be bigger. Maybe then they could have given it like fully articulating hands, honestly. But I don't know. I'm a bit conflicted, and I am taking a lot of time. This should be going in final thoughts. Longest size comparison ever. And here he is with some official figures. And I guess that just iterates the point, right? This guy feels like he should be bigger than a Chug Deluxe. He feels like he should be like the size of a Voyager. Is that controversial? I don't know. I spent a lot of time on this point. I'll circle back to it in final thoughts. But I'm going to get him transformed into the first of his 3 alternate modes, and then we'll take a look at him from there. I figured I'd just start with the size comparison first. Here he is with multiple, third-party guys, the New Age guys in the back, Iron Factory. Again, like I just feel like it's too small with a dedicated toy line. I genuinely think it looks small. Like, I don't think Sea Spray should be about the same size, I don't know. I mean, but with the Dr. Wu guys, I feel like if I take all of these big guys away, and I just move these guys out, I feel like he has the proper presence the design demands, or at least this interpretation of the design with these proportions. He has the proper presence with these guys. That's what I feel. I may not be correct, but that's how I feel. I don't know if I'm articulating it very well either. But yeah, let me get some Hasbro guys in really quickly. Again, like he's not that big. So I do think that maybe, just maybe, I keep saying it, I think he should be a little bit bigger. That being said, getting into the monkey mode, I actually really like this mode. Like, it looks really good. It's pretty clean in all ways, and the head sculpt on the ape head is just like this is a gorilla technically. The head sculpt is just great, I took 1 pic of this, or 2 pics of it, and the stoic pose I have it in turned out really well. It's like a slight smile almost molded in, and then the mouth can open, revealing, some pretty nice painted teeth, which is awesome, And it's not like really articulated, but it is pretty articulated. The head can go like up and down. It's on a ball joint right there, so it can be pretty expressive, whoop, whoop, right, So it is pretty expressive on the head. I will say the back end of the gun is a filler here, and then the 2 sides of the gun store back here. But this isn't just like a filler. It's actually pretty necessary to the overall cohesiveness of this part, because if you don't have this, it'll look pretty bad and it won't hold together at all. It is optional in the sense that, like, yeah, they'll just sit there, but I doubt that I would ever transform it without this piece, because it is almost parts forming. It's optional, but it's still one of those things where, like, it doesn't really feel optional. The articulation and the rest of him is basically the same as robot mode, except for the fact that the legs shrink. He still has knees, but they only get you that much now. But everything else is pretty much the same. Looks pretty good. Definitely, I think, the most fleshed out of his alternate modes, but that's true for, I think, any optimal Optimus toy. Again, the torso details look great. The monkey head is painted beautifully. The blue paint is fantastic. The reddish orange for the eyes is like terrific. Whoa. I don't know if I showed it that well, but it does look really good. His head does kind of come up a bit too much at times. But yeah, pretty good alternate mode. I'm going to get it into I think I'll do the plain mode first, actually. Here's jet mode. As you can see, it does have a 3mm flight stand port on the bottom, and also a 5mm flight stand port on the bottom. Though I don't think that 5mm flight stand ports exist. But it looks pretty good. The wingspan is pretty nice. I think he's as long as he is tall, if not a bit longer. Actually, he's a bit longer, yeah, because of the cockpit and then because of the gun goes there. It is pretty good. You know, it doesn't, this wheel actually rolls, but I don't know if I have it mistransformed. These wheels don't touch the ground. I don't think they're supposed to, though, in this mode. I think that would be weird if it was basically just like the, I don't know, maybe the parts forming is again here. This is really not necessary. You really don't need this. That's just where it goes. You also don't need this. It kind of like hooks onto this and tabs in here. It's actually really cool, but I think it obviously looks cooler with a gun. This you also really don't need. It tabs in here to like lock this into place, but it just holds with friction. So the parts forming on the gun is really optional in this mode. It's just places to put the accessories. You could always store them up here as well. The place where this does have more parts forming though is these pieces. They don't shift over the hands. You pop them off and then pop them back on in this position. And I feel like that really just could have been on a double hinge assembly. There was no need for this. And you can argue again, it is optional, but then his hands would be visible. It's like, why would you do that? Like, you know, why not just do it normally and put a double hinge? It just felt like a really unnecessary thing to turn into a parts forming piece when it didn't need to be a parts forming piece. The jet mode does look pretty good though, and thanks to the amount of like tabbing, it has a lot of tabs. This is very like robust, solid, nothing comes out of place. It is very much an Optimus jet mode. It does not look very good. I just wish these parts were just on hinges. That's really my only complaint. I'd have no expectations for this. But then also these, however, I would say that, oh my god, these parts in the back right here, these stabilizers, are a bit hard to stabilize. But yeah, they constantly want to get out of position. I don't really know how to position. They just have ball joints, so I wish those tabbed in somehow. Other than that, you know, it is Optimus and is very much flying object mode. I will get it into the rolling object mode and then get back to you guys. Here is the rolling object mode. Really quick size comparisons: Legend Sea Spray, Micromaster, Dr. Cosmos, Flak, Core Class. Get you all out of the way. And Deluxe. So it's pretty decent in size. Man, it's definitely an object. It is a thing. It does roll thanks to these wheels and the landing gear wheels from before. It's a thing, you know. This is very much what Optimus turns into. I don't really think. I mean, it obviously is missing the wheel between his hands. It's one of the things they've changed. I do think that would have probably made this look more. Hand fell off. Hand falls off sometimes. I think that could have made this look more cohesive. You know, if they had that wheel that goes in the front. No, there's basically no parts forming here except for the hand covers, which again really should have been just on a hinge or something. They really did not need to parts form those. The gun just tabs onto the back and acts as the turret of this tank mode. But yeah, I mean, there was no real need for them to do the whole shenanigans with these pieces right here. It looks like it, you know. This one does not hold together as well as the jet mode. I feel the jet mode felt more robust. This section right here, these tabs don't work super well. I don't know why. The tabs for jet mode work great, but it's two tabs for these that tab them in on this side, which aren't used for jet mode, but are used for this mode. Those, for some reason, are fighting me. I don't know why. Jet mode is a lot better, and 8 mode is better than both. And that's basically starting final thoughts. A lot of positives here. The paint is fantastic. The sculpt is fantastic. The articulation is fantastic. The presence by itself is fantastic. I love how innovative the solution is to the hands, even if the execution is really questionable and the overall result is like, was this even worth it? I like the fact they tried something new. As far as I know, nobody else has ever attempted that, and this is the only figure they use it on. So I always appreciate experimentation to solve design challenges. Even if it doesn't work out, it is interesting, it is cool, and it does have some merit. So shout out to them. Again, the maroon paint, I said it before, the maroon paint is fantastic. The metallic blue is fantastic. The silver is fantastic. This is a gorgeous Legends class figure. It has no right to look this good. And I'd honestly say that it even looks better than a lot of New Age's really well painted figures. It is insane how well they painted this toy. I don't even know if the repaint or remold they're doing this, it'll come out whenever, maybe next year, maybe this year, who knows. I don't think that'll look as good as this original version. This is crazy. There's an oversized KO of this, which is why I'm going to get into the size, which is one of my first real negatives on this thing, which is a personal one. I just feel like it's too small. Not because it's Legends class. I have no issue with small toys. Don't get it twisted. You know, a lot of people will see Legends class toy and be like, I wish it was a Voyager because they just want a Voyager class toy. No, no, no. I mean, for Legends class, this feels small in relation to other Legends class toys. This feels like how big a Doctor Wu Optimal Optimus should be, not a Legends class Optimal Optimus. Is that based on a skill chart? Is that based on fact? No, I'm just basing it on my personal vibe. That's it. It feels too small for me. It may be scale chart accurate to G1 Legends class figures. I think it probably is, but I don't really care. Also, shout out to the green highlights. Those are fantastic. The whole thing with the shoulders not tabbing in super well is a bit annoying. I am happy that at least, like, you know, if you just grab the yellow pieces, the pectoral pieces, and it works, it's fine. The parts forming, I appreciate optional parts forming for weapon storage. That's cool, right? In the jet mode, it's basically all just weapon storage. But the hand guards parts forming is just so unnecessary. It's so stupid. It could have totally been avoided, and you can say, well, just don't do it if it bothers you. And then the hands are just out there. It's like, you know, I mean, it just really, all it needed was a double hinge. All it needed was just a single double hinge. I don't get why they didn't do that. There was more than enough space in the arms too, because they're basically, there's nothing in the arms. You know, there's just an elbow joint. So like, you totally could have done that. I don't understand why. This is the only really head scratcher I have with this figure, really. I will say in the Gorilla mode, which by the way is the best alternate mode, it rocks. I like the Gorilla mode a lot, actually. It looks fantastic. The neck gap cover piece is really crucial. It does not hold together without it. It really starts to feel mandatory, and I wish it wasn't. I wish that it had just been like a bunch of panels inside the chest that just came out instead of needing to resort to this. So, you know, again, I think this is it's a pretty good, great, somewhere in between. I think the positives greatly outweigh the negatives. It looks fantastic, it poses fantastic, it does all the Optimal Optimus things pretty well, and I think it's one of the best this design has ever looked. I honestly think this looks better than Perfect Effect, and definitely looks better than Transart, and definitely looks better than Power of the Primes. I think Transart looks the worst of the bunch, but this one is probably my favorite one aesthetically. I just wish it was bigger, man. I just wish it was Voyager, it was the size of a Voyager, and that way it would, I think, carry a lot more presence with it, like some Legends class figures, you know. As a standalone, it rocks, you know, it really does. And I don't know, I'm really conflicted. I want to give this like a glowing recommendation, but I can't, right? Because there's nothing to display it with, which I think is important for a lot of people. It's not important for me, but I understand I'm unique in that thing. I don't mind standalones at all. But I do think there's enough great here to pick this up as a novelty if you're into Beast Wars. I would stay away from the KO because I feel like the KO, which is entirely unpainted, and is notoriously super floppy, which would suck with how many loose pieces there are on this guy in terms of like how many places could be loose because of the amount of joints and pieces that can come off. So stay away from the KO, and it'll lose all the presence without the paint. The paint is huge. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's a recommend for me if you don't mind it being, I think, if you don't mind the issues I stated, if you don't agree with me that it's too small, then yeah, it's a glowing recommend for me, honestly. And I guess like if the parts forming is a turn off, then no, don't get it. But it's not really like a huge, crucial part of it. This isn't like a frame combiner. It just parts forms a little bit here and there. But yeah, I mean, pretty good figure. Thanks again, Fuse9, for letting me take a look at this. I'm reviewing this like 2 days before TFCon, where I'm returning these figures to him, but you know. I am very punctual. But that's it from me, guys. Hope to see you all. I will be at TFCon LA, so yeah. Have a good one. Let me know how you guys feel about this in the comments. Have a great day. Peace.